وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم. رب اشرح لنا صدورنا ويسر لنا أمورنا واحلل عقدة من ألسنتنا يفقهوا قولنا. اللهم نوّر قلوبنا بمعرفتك واشرح صدورنا بنور كتابك وسنة نبيك واحفظنا عن زلل وخطأ في بيان مرادك. So we continue with lakin. We were discussing yesterday lakin comes for istidrak. Istidrak means that you correct a possible misconception or misunderstanding of via the means of lakin. Whatever was mentioned before lakin, there is a possibility that there might come a misunderstanding, or there is a misunderstanding or a wrong notion. By bringing lakin, we then correct that misunderstanding or the wrong perception. And then he says ba'd al-nafi, and we mentioned that if this will happen when you have lakin used between two single words, two mufradat, then the sentence must be a jumla manfi and manfiya. Ma ja'ani zaydun walakin amrun. And because of that, whatever appears after lakin will be converted from the negative to the positive. So ma ja'ani zaydun, that negative there is for zayd only. Lakin amrun means lakin ja'a amrun. But amr came. So zayd didn't come, but amr came. Opposite. Then they also mention that in order for the atf to be correct with lakin, there must be ittisaqul kalam, consistency. And ittisaqul kalam is made up of two things. Number one, there must be no pause between the first sentence and the use of lakin. And number two, that whatever appears before lakin, the subject matter, before lakin must be different to the subject matter, the mawdu, which appears after lakin. Like Zayd and Amr, these are two different people. So I can't say ma ja'ani Zaydun walakin Zaydun. As Zayd didn't come to me, rather Zayd came to me. That doesn't make sense. So there has to be two different subject matters that you are speaking about. The one is being denied and the other one is being affirmed. And we did two examples. If someone says that I owe so-and-so 1,000 yen as I did, and he says, La, walakin no husband. No, rather it was ghasab. The la, and because in this case here, will be making nafi of the sabab. In other words, he's denying the cause of the money being owed. He's not negating that the money is owed. Yes, you do owe me 1,000 rand, but لا قرض لا لقرض وليس لقرض ولكنه لغصب. You follow?
G.
Okay, so now we carry on today with the third and fourth example, which I told you will show us what happens when one of these two shurut are missing. Bismillah. You prepare?
G. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولو كان في يده عبد فقال هذا لفلان فقال فلان ما كان لي قط ولكنه لفلان آخر قط ولكنه لفلان آخر، فإن وصل الكلام كان العبد للمقرر له الثاني. That if the slave was in his position and he says that this is for so and so says I never had one, but it is for another person. If he connects the speech, the slave will be for the second مقرر له، لأن النفي يتعلق بالإثبات, because the negation is connected with establishment. وإن فصل, and if we separate, كان العبد للمقرر الأول. The slave will be for the first confessor. فيكون قول المقرر له ردا للإقرار. So the saying of the مقرر له will be a rejection for confession. ولو أن أمد.
Please stop there. Okay. So the third example, right, is that if someone has to say, with regards to a slave in his position, in his possession, that this slave, the slave belongs to so and so, or لفلانة. The slave belongs to a particular person, فلان. فقال فلان, and then that specific person says, so for example, just to make it easy, we have Rashid, we have Luqman, and we have Abdullah, right? So Luqman is saying that the slave here belongs to Rashid. But now Rashid is saying, Ma kana li qattu, I've never ever owned a slave, or he never ever belonged to me. Qattu comes to negate something with emphasis in the entire past. You use it with maldi. It comes to negate the entire past for emphasis ta'kid. I've never ever owned a slave. ولكنه لفلان, rather it belongs to Abdullah, a third person. Okay? So Luqman says it's Rashid's slave. Rashid is saying, no, it's not my slave, it's Abdullah's slave. Okay? Now there are two possibilities. Either we have ittisaqul kalam or we don't. Right? So both are being discussed. فَإِنْ وَصَلَ الْكَلَامِ, so the first condition, if he has to say that, if Rashid, that the first person, Rashid has to join the kalam, meaning that he follows his statement immediately after what Luqman said, this belongs to you. كان العبد للمقر له والثاني. In this case here, the slave will belong to Abdullah. Why? لأن النفي يتعلق بالإثبات. Because when Rashid negated the fact that the slave belongs to him, and at the same time established and confirmed and affirmed that the slave belongs to Abdullah, so we will connect the two sentences. The asf is correct because we have ittisaqul kalam. Both conditions have been met. Okay? So in that case there, he's negating the slave from his ownership and affirming that it belongs actually to Abdullah. You follow?
Okay.
So the slave will belong to Abdullah, will go automatically to Abdullah. And the iqrar of the person of Luqman will be in favor of not Rashid, it will be in favor of Abdullah. Okay?
Okay.
وَإِن فَصَلَ, ever, if this condition is not found, we don't have ittisaqul kalam, and the one condition is missing, that he kept quiet. So, for example, so he said, مَا كَانَ لِي قَتُّ, I've never ever owned a slave, and he kept quiet for a few minutes. Then afterwards he said, actually, you know what? لَكِنَّهُ لِفُلَانٍ, that slave belongs to Abdullah. But after some silence, you follow? Then he said that. Okay? Then in this case here, كَانَ عَبْدُ لِلْمُقَارِ لَهُ, that slave will still go to Rashid. Because this person, no, sorry, كَانَ الْعَبْدُ لِلْمُقِرِّ الْأَوَّلِ. So not muqar. Or لِلْمُقِرِّ الْأَوَّلِ. Because there's two muqirs here, two making admission. Luqman is admitting that the slave belongs to Rashid. At the same time, Rashid is also, based upon Luqman's admission, saying that it belongs to Abdullah. You follow? So in this case, because Rashid is rejecting the fact that the slave belongs to him, it will remain in Luqman's possession. فيكون قول المقرر له ردا للإقرار. So the statement of the muqarrar lahu, that is Rashid in our example, will be a rejection of Luqman's admission. You follow? Because remember we said if one of the conditions is not found, then lakin what? It becomes istinaf, beginning of a new sentence, unconnected to the previous statement. Okay? So in which case, which is the majaz meaning. So therefore, that part will not be accepted from him, because he is saying that the slave of Luqman belongs to Abdullah. You can't make admission on behalf of somebody else. You follow?
Somebody.
You can't make, because remember it's a separate sentence now. So it's like you saying, hey, you know what, that slave that's in Luqman's position actually belongs to Abdullah. You can't do that. Then he's not saying, so how can you say that somebody else's position doesn't belong to him, belongs to somebody else? And so you have to bring proof for that. You follow? It was different when Luqman said, it doesn't belong to me, it belongs to you. And then based on his admission, you said, no, actually, you've got it wrong. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to Abdullah. Okay? Maybe, for example, it was in his position at that time. For example, I borrowed you a pen. And while it was in your position, somebody zapped it. Understood? The person that zapped it, he thought it belonged to you. not knowing I actually brought it to you. Understood? So
Ji.
maybe a similar scenario here. So therefore, in the first instance where there is ittisaqul kalam, we'll accept that the slave actually belongs to Abdullah and not for Rashid, the person whom Luqman originally made admission for. You follow? Understood that?
Ji. Ji.
No confusion? Clear?
No confusion. Clear.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. The next example is basically the same, but it's a talaq masala. Nikah masala, sorry. See.
ولو أن أمة تزوجت نفسها بغير إذن مولاها ب100 درهم فقال المولى لا أجيز العقد ب100 درهم ولكن أجيزه ب150 بطل العقد. And when a slave had married herself without the permission of a master for 100 dirhams, and the master said that I do not permit the contract or the due for 100 dirhams, but I permit for 150, that is dirhams. The act will be باطل لأن الكلام غير متسق, because the speech is not consistent. فإن فإن نفي الإجارة فإن نفي الإجازة وإثباتها بعينها لا يتحقق. For indeed, the negation of permitting or establishing it in itself is not achieved. فكان قوله لكن أجيزه إثباته بعد رد العقد. So he's saying that I permit it, its establishment will be after rejecting the act. وكذلك لو قال لا أجيزه ولكن أجيزه إن زدتني 50 على المئة يكون فسخا للنكاح. Just like that, if you were to say that, Moulana?
Yes?
Okay. Just like that, if you were to say that I permit it, I do not permit it, but I permit it if he increase me with 50 upon 100, it will be a cancelling for nikah لعدم احتمال البيان, because there's no the possibility of explanation لأن من شرطه اتساق, because from his condition is consistent ولا اتساق, and there's no consistent.
Right. Now there is a slight, what's the word? Is a slight oversight here by the author. It's a small mistake that the author has made here. This example is mentioned in other kitabs, but not like how he has it here, okay? So I'll first mention what he says, rahimahullah ta'ala, and then I'll say what the oversight is. So now, first thing you must keep in mind for this person is that the slave girl doesn't have the wilayah to nikah. She doesn't have authority to marry herself off because she's not a free person. She's under the ownership of someone. So if she wants to marry someone, she has to get permission. If she should get herself married to someone, then we won't make the nikah batil immediately. We won't cancel nikah, but we will suspend it upon the permission of the master. If the master permits it, he's got no problem with it, then there's no need for us to cancel it. We'll allow it. And if the master does not permit it, then the Ahnaf say that it will not stand. Understand? So she has to get permission from him first. Understood that?
Okay.
Okay, so she's not allowed to get married, but should she do, we will first see what the master says before canceling the contract or not. ولو أمة تزوجت نفسها بغير إذن مولاها ب100 درهم. And if a slave girl was to marry herself off without the permission of her master for 100 dirhams, فقال المولى, and the master says لا أجيز العقد ب100 درهم. So just keep in mind this one here. He's saying I don't permit 400 dirhams. ولكن أجيزه ب150. However, I do permit it for 150 بطل العقد. So صاحب أصول الشاشي is saying, rahimahullah, that in this case here, this example here, the transaction will be invalid. The nikah contract will be invalid. Why? لأن الكلام غير متسق, because the speech is not متسق. What's missing from here? What's missing from here is that before the lakin and after the lakin, the subject matter is the same. أجيزه ولا لا أجيزه ولكن أجيزه. Okay?
Ji.
This is according to the kitab now. I'm coming back to the mistake. So according to what the Shurah explained is we don't look at the amounts mentioned, because you can say that he's rejecting the amount, not the nikah. So the subject matter is actually different. One is 100 and one is 150. You follow?
Ji.
So this is what is actually in the other kitab. In the other kitabs, this example, it is actually ittisaqul kalam. It will be correct if he mentions the amounts. Okay? The next example at the end, where he doesn't mention the amount, that will be غير متسق. So there's a slight oversight there by the author, rahimahullah ta'ala, okay? So if it does
Ji.
mention the amounts, like in this case here, the kalam is muttasiq because he's making a rejection of the amount. He's not making a rejection of ijaza and then approving ijaza, okay?
Ji.
You understood? Anyway, so but what is the author saying, rahimahullah ta'ala? Why فإن نفي الإجازة وإثباتها بعينها لا يتحقق. Why? Because to negate or disapprove permissions and to disapprove and to prove it at the same time, لا يتحقق. It's not possible to establish. You can't approve of something and also reject it at the same time. فكان قوله لا أجيزه لكن أجيزه. So therefore his statement, however I do approve of it, is إثبات, is giving permission after having already rejected it. لا أجيزه. Okay? So he's
Ji.
looking at those two words, he's not looking at the amount. Now keep in mind, in other kitabs, you can make a note, where the amount is mentioned like here, it will be correct, because we will say that he's rejecting the amounts, not rejecting the ijazah. So therefore the mawdu in both sides is separate and different. So therefore there is ittisaqul kalam. Okay?
Ji.
But yeah, now in this example, it will be correct. It will be غير متصل. فكذلك لو قال, and similarly if he has to say لا أجيزه ولكن أجيزه, so that's simple. You got لا أجيزه and لكن أجيزه. Listen, you can't now, how can you say I don't give permission, but I do give permission? So here in this case here, he's making nafi of ijaza and at the same time giving ijaza. So there we can say is the kalam is غير متسق. Why? Because the mawdu, the subject matter of both before lakin and after lakin is the same thing. Understood?
Ji.
Okay, so if he says لا أجيزه ولكن أجيزه إن زدتني ب50 على 100, however I will approve of it if you give me 50 more. It's 150 in other words, as a mahar, then I'll approve of it, of the nikah. In this case here, لكن أجيزه إن زدتني 50 على 100 will be istinaf, will be beginning of a new sentence. In other words, the master is proposing now to the husband. It's up to him to whether he wants to accept the proposal or not. So if he accepts the proposal, yeah, the nikah will take place on 150 as a mahar. Okay?
Ji.
So it won't be connected to the first part. So يكون فسخا للنكاح. In this example, as I said, because the kalam is غير متسق, it will be a cancellation of the nikah لعدم احتمال البيان, because it's not possible for us to say that lakin is there. It's not possible for us to say that lakin is explaining what he means by I don't approve. Why? لأن من شرطه الاتساق, because for lakin to do its job effectively, its condition is there must be consistency. ولا اتساق أي هنا, and there's no consistency in this consistency in the speech over here. Why? Because one of the two sharts which we mentioned is missing, and that is the subject matter is the same, and it can't be. Okay?
Ji.
Understood everything?
Ji Malal.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, so inshallah we'll continue maybe tomorrow. Don't want to go too fast also. Should I give some time frame as to when the electricity will be restored there in Usulleh?
I didn't hear anything. I tried to
Okay.
call him, but he's not online.
Hmm. Okay, inshallah. So is it just Usulleh that's out, or is the whole or the other areas in P that's out as well?
The outskirts of
Oh, okay, inshallah. to make it easy, inshallah, and restore the energy quickly, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. No questions, then we can terminate here, inshallah. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
Walaikum
وبركاته.
salam. Walaikum salam.